Good evening, everyone. Good evening to our life classers, and welcome to yet another class in the JN Circle Thrive Together Life Class Series. I am excited this week in particular because it's class number 7, and it's going to be an amazing episode. Today, we talk about parenting, and especially positive parenting, with an emphasis on creating legacy and reducing trauma. So I thank all of the attendees who are familiar faces in this space now, who have made Wellness Wednesday a way in which they connect with us in this space. And we're so happy that you have been intentional about sharing space with us for the last 6 weeks. This evening's conversation is going to be powerful as per usual. We're going to be having fun. We're going to be having an expansive conversation, and you're going to leave with more information than when you did come in. So please stay tuned, sit down, relax, and get ready for an awesome journey into this very important topic of positive parenting. As usual, I'm going to just drop a quick outline of our class this evening, as well as our general housekeeping rules. So we're talking about positive parenting, creating legacy, reducing trauma. And as per usual, we have a couple of very interactive features that we're going to be utilizing much for our discussion this evening. You would have, for those of you who are repeat attendees, you would have become familiar with the raise hand feature that you can go ahead and raise your hand. I see Station raising her hand already, in case you want to make a comment and ask us to include you in the on microphone ability to ask questions of our panelists. We also have the chat feature. You can drop your comments, your feedback, your love for the JN group and your love for the panelists as you go through the convo. And we also have the Q&A box within which you can drop your questions that you'd love to specifically be answered by our very amazing lineup of panelists this evening. I am your host. I'm Kamala McWhinney, Associate Clinical Psychologist, CEO of the White Lotus Blooms Wellness Services, and also a relationship coach. And our panelists this evening are Ms. Georgia Rose. She's a PhD candidate in childhood and infant mental health. She's also a clinical psychologist. Welcome, Georgia. We also have joining us Marlon Cooper. He's a professional coach, the co-founder of Epic Transformations Ltd, and the CEO of Symptai Consultancy Ltd. Welcome to the space, Marlon. And we'll be joined later on by an amazing group with great energy. We're going to be joined by Ity Ellis and family, namely his wife, Karen Ellis, their daughters, Najali and Nastasia Ellis. So please, you can't afford to miss the rest of it. Stay tuned from right now, right up until 8:30. It's going to be amazing. So Georgia and Marlon are the first panelists to join us on stage. But before we delve into the juicy conversation on parenting this evening, we're going to be bringing your attention as attendees to the poll that we're launching so that you can give us a feedback of how you're doing on today. And we can register that. And at the end of the class, we're going to be having a post-polling session as well. All right, so just look out for that. And we'll read the results to you in a short while. But firstly, kindly allow me to welcome these two beautiful people. Let me give you a little introduction to Ms. Georgia Rose. She is an associate clinical psychologist, as I mentioned before. She has been serving in mental health for the last 15 years, despite her very youthful appearance. She is based in the West at the moment, and she is also actively engaged in community service and sits on several boards in the St. James and Western region. So welcome, Ms. Rose. She's also the mother of 3, 2 young boys and a young adult, right? We're also joined by Marlon, who's a father himself and is very intentional about creating space for men for mentoring outside of his professional capacity. As a professional coach, he's taking it a step further to provide resources to all those who need it. Welcome, Georgia. Say something to the people in here.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
And Marlon.
To the conversation.
Awesome.
Good evening, Jay and crew. Welcome.
Awesome. And we're seeing so many comments in the chat already. That's always a good sign, right? So let's get right into it. So we're curious to hear from the both of you who were selected intentionally because you are also parents. So we'd love to get a feedback of what has your own parenting journey been like thus far. So I'm going to start off with Georgia, who is the younger parent, I think, in some ways.
It has been an experience, to say the least. I have a 22-year-old who entered my life when she was 10 years old. And it was a very humbling experience. I think having that experience with her first really taught me that parenting was not an easy road, that it had its own challenges and struggles. I think sometimes parenting can be glamorized by persons because you only see the beauty. Nobody really sits down and talks about the challenges or the pains because it's such a sensitive area. And sometimes because of that, parents will withhold or hide behind smokes and mirrors, for want of a better term. They only project the positive parts of it. And I think we don't have enough conversations about the reality of parenting. I like to tell people it's a humbling experience. If you've never been embarrassed before in your life, become a parent. If you think you are all that and a bag of chips, become a parent. You know, it really takes you down a couple of notches. It helps, it teaches you patience, it teaches you restraint, it teaches you appreciation for the finer things in life, the small things is what I really allude to. It also teaches you to not be very judgmental, to recognize that any card can play, as Jamaican people like to say. So I think that was a preparatory experience for me before I actually had my two boys. And by the time I had my two boys, I'd already gone through a girl who was giving me a run for my money. She came with everything. And she's 22 years old now. I don't think we're out of the woods completely, but I am very humble and I am very grateful for where she is now and for what she seems to be on the path to accomplish. So I think that has been, one of the biggest things for me to know that it has to be intentional.
Yes.
It's not a glamorous journey. And many times when parents, have a privileged position of being invited into people's lives every time a client sits in front of me. And that position has really taught me that, when parents come and they feel very overwhelmed and they feel like, why am I getting it wrong? I think it's very soothing to hear that it's not that you're getting it wrong. You're just going through the fire that all of us are going through. So it's not that you're a bad parent, because very few parents are bad parents. Most parents ultimately are trying to do their best. So that has been my journey in a nutshell and continues to be my journey.
I was just about to add that piece. Thank you for sharing, Georgia, because what I'm hearing you say is that it's continuous in its nature. And for those of us who still have parents who are alive, we're still being parented in some way. Are we going to come to that part shortly, right? Marlon, over to you. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. I'd like to hear from you. What has your parenting journey been like so far?
Well, thank you for having me. Again, everyone. My parenting journey has been very, very interesting. I'm a lifelong learner, and these two have been two of my greatest teachers. And a lot of the teaching has been myself. I thought a lot of it would have been, but a lot of it has been about myself, how I react to what they're doing, how I respond, how I interact with them, how I stay intentional, stay on purpose when they are deliberately trying to get me off track. I'm having an interesting experience with a boy. My son is 16, he's going to be 72. My daughter is 10, going on 45. And I've had an interesting experience interacting with both a girl and a boy, because just how they show up. And so for me in a relationship, is very flowing, very natural, right? My relationship with my son requires a lot more intention. I love them equally. They love me the same. But that's how it has been. I've learned to appreciate the difference in the two of them, and not to think that one is better than the other or anything like that, but appreciate that they're very, very different. But they have been two of my greatest teachers in life so far. That has been, for me, probably the most fabulous experience.
Excellent. And so for all of the parents who are on here, I feel like you're getting a sense of community in hearing that, listen, it's not you one in school. It's literally a class that you're still in and will continue to be in until, the end. And it's a learning journey, and that's okay. So we first of all want to normalize that for all of you, that not getting it okay is fine. because I hear so many parents complain that I think I'm doing a couple things wrong, but the idea is that nobody actually has a manual with 100% accuracy of what this thing entails. Yeah. So JN and myself were intentional about creating a space where we could talk about not parenting as we usually talk about, but positive parenting. And I figure some people might be wondering what is the difference. So I just want to share a couple of things about the approach of positive parenting. So it focuses on building relationships, not just thinking of yourself as this know-it-all, big, grown person who is leading these tiny thoughts because of your power and your authority, but building relationships that is built on communication. And this might be a challenge for some parents to hear. And also mutual respect. Not just you must respect me because I pay the bills, but mutual respect. Yes? And a couple of the key tenets of the positive parenting approach are, and I'm going to read a couple of them. It involves guiding, not bossing around, but guiding, leading, teaching, as Georgia and Marlon have both said, caring. And I think sometimes people assume that, well, I'm caring, but sometimes we don't know how to communicate that to children. So that's also important. It's empowering. We don't tear down our children and expect them to still be great at the end of it. Another important one, Georgia and Marlon, positive parenting says that we ought to be sensitive to a child's needs and also the stage at which they're at. So you don't parent a 2-year-old the same way you parent a 15-year-old, ideally. And we're going to tease that out as we go through the conversation. 2 more that I think are very important. Positive parenting sets boundaries. So we're not going to be allowing children to walk all over the parents. There are boundaries that are important as well. And also, it shows empathy for the child's feelings. Sometimes we walk them. Sometimes we say very denigrating things about them in front of their peers, and we compare them to other children. Those things are not ideal. Yeah? So the other piece of the conversation now, ladies and gentlemen, is the part about creating legacy and reducing trauma. I'm going to ask Georgia, in your capacity as clinical psychologist, and I'm sure you, in your 15 years, you've seen many cases where there is some trauma evident, Georgia. Can you give us an idea of what are some of the experiences, some of the mistakes that parents make sometimes that can result in trauma being experienced by their children?
Kamala, that's such an important conversation to have about the role of trauma and human development. I notice I say human development because I believe that sometimes we forget that children will grow up to become adults. So the experiences they have in childhood shape the person they are going to become. And for years, I think it was a very anecdotal conversation that we had, but science is now demonstrating that the experiences that children have during their formative years lays a framework for the personality and the character and the overall human being that they are going to become. And this is critical information. Why is it key? When I started out in psychology, my aim was never to work with children. I wanted to work with persons who are in conflict with the law. But when I started working in the public health system, I kept meeting a lot of children that had a lot of developmental disabilities, and my interest became piqued, and I found out that this is where it's almost as if it chose me. This is the route I wanted to take. And because I became so intrigued by what was going on at this stage of human development, I started to do more reading and more research. And what I started to find consistently is that a lot of the impairments that emerge in adulthood have roots in childhood. There is no 21st century data, research, scientific evidence that is telling us even the very physical ailments that we struggle with have roots in childhood. So there is evidence to suggest that diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, all of those things can be linked to exposure to incessant trauma early in childhood, because I think we don't recognize that the pathways that are involved in our emotional responses are the very same pathways that are involved in other types of physical responses. And the brain is like a memory bank. It stores this information. And I want to give an example. Let us say that you're walking down the road and you see a gentleman approaching you with a gun. And your brain takes that information in. So your sensory elements takes that information in. And your perceptual functions pick it up as a danger. So what happens is that your body goes into its stress response. and you find that your autonomic nervous system gets stimulated, you're going to pull blood from different parts of the body, and it's going to tell you that we need to run to safety. And that happens on Monday. So we have what we call your alarm stage. You go into alarm, so you pick up that there's a threat, and then your resistance is that you run. And when you get away from the resistance, when you get away from the threat, your body is going to say, we're safe. So you can dial back, you can calm down. So you can pull back that blood that was sent to other places. You can slow down the heart rate, slow down the pulse, and the body returns to homeostasis, which is balance. But if that happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you move from what we call homeostasis to allostatic load, which is a negative, a maladaptive response of the body. The body is no longer able to operate from a place of normal functioning. You know, the body has developed a maladaptive pattern of responding to its environment. And things like that affect how children learn, how they interact with others, how they play, how they sleep, how they digest food. So we have to get to a place where we have an appreciation that trauma has the ability to have long-standing maladaptive consequences on our overall development. There is a psychologist by the name of Selma Freiberg. She wrote a very interesting paper called Ghosts in the Nursery. And what Selma proposes is that many of us have lived through our own trauma. And when we become parents, we carry the trauma over with us. And we have what we call intergenerational trauma. And we re-traumatize our children. Sometimes we're aware that we're doing it. Sometimes we're not aware that we're doing it. And that is why we might see families that have cycles of behaviors. And we can't understand why these behaviors continue. Positive parenting is really synonymous with intentional parenting. Acknowledging who we are as human beings, what our life stories are, and then who the type of human beings we hope our children will become, and what we want their life stories to be, and how we will do things differently. Because the trauma is not a good thing. And we sometimes think trauma only speaks to gun violence and sexual molestation, but that's not only what it speaks to. It's the children who live in homes where parents cuss them out every day. Mothers and fathers who have separated and the children become pawns in the parental, the custodial struggle. Parents who did not want to be parents and become parents. And instead of resolving that themselves, feel that they need to make the child aware that they are an imposition. So those things are also sources of trauma. And if we're conscious of that, then we understand that these things have roots to things like anxiety, schizophrenia, substance misuse, mood disorders, eating disorders, the list goes on and on, learning disorders. Kamala, you have also worked with children who have had traumatic experiences. And one of the things we find is that children who had been sexually molested would struggle in school. I would process things a lot differently. And the research tells us that early exposure to sex for children changes the architecture of the brain. So the pathways themselves amend themselves to these new experiences.
Absolutely. Georgia, thank you for this wealth of information and for introducing the very necessary piece of the conversation, and that is intergenerational trauma. And I'm jumping over to Marlon in a quick second to find out whether or not in your journey so far as a parent, Marlon, if you have had to confront, examine, and perhaps make peace with how you were parented growing up. Yes? Because I feel like that's a very important part of how it is that we tend to carry on and sometimes exaggerate the blind spots that we're not aware of. But give me one quick second. We're going to launch the poll results, and then I'm going to make a special announcement that can allow one of you to win a prize this evening. So we asked you, how would you describe your current mood? 61% of you say okay, and 33% of you are feeling happy. That's pretty good. I feel good about my future, and 64% of you said yes, and that's very encouraging. And I hope the 33% of you will take something away from this class that will change your answer to some extent by the end of our session this evening. Question 3, what am I expecting from this class? 42% of you said advice on how to parent, especially in a pandemic. And the other 42% said you came here for coping and self-care tips. Question 5, as a parent, I have identified the legacy I want to create through parenting. And I'm so glad to see 53% of you are saying yes, and 22% of you say sort of. So we hope again to add some value to that. And question 6, I think this pandemic creates added pressure for parents. And 81% of you said yes, and we do concur. And that is why JN is creating this space. Yes? Before Marlon jumps in with his contribution to the issue of the intergenerational nature sometimes of trauma, I'd love to also announce that we launched a competition for the Life Class series that would invite people to tell us who referred them to Life Class this evening. And the person who nominated them, who referred the most persons, will get a chance to win an Amazon gift card. So we're going to ask you to start from now and drop in the chat, right, the name of the person who tell you about Life Class, so that that person, not you for today, that person can win an Amazon gift card to do some Bossy shopping and sort out some things, right? So just drop the name of the person, and if that person is here in class, then they have a chance to win. If so many people, if the highest number of people state that they referred them, they win a prize, okay? So do your friend a solid and drop the name in the chat, and remember, it's not you going to win it this time. Beg them something out of it, right? But they're going to be the one to walk away with the prize this evening. So keep dropping the names in the comment section, and we will share who the winner is by the time we end this evening. So Marlon, talk to me. You said on the journey, right, to parenting, did you have to, confront how you were parented, how that affected you, whether you thought your parents made mistakes in some ways, whether well-meaning or not, and how that affected your journey?
Absolutely. I grew up in a single mother home. Well, I grew up actually initially separated from my mother for quite a few years, and then we reunited when I was about 8 years old. And then we got separated again when I was about 11.
Wow.
And then we reunited again when I was about 13 or 14. I didn't grow up with a father because my father passed away when I was very young. And so I didn't know him. I have no memory of him or anything like that. So I kind of grew up typically how most Jamaican men, I guess, grew up, which is without a dominant male figure in the home. My mom is a very strong personality. I love her, and I had to do a lot of work in myself to come to a place of understanding and compassion for her. When I think back on it, this was a woman who in her very early 30s was trying to parent 4 children, trying to find her way in life, and she was doing this all by herself. So I have a lot of compassion and a lot of respect for what she has done. But it took me work on myself to get to that place because, life was very tough for her. And sometimes we were at the effect of that, even though it was not necessarily us. But I've come to understand that in her own way, she loved us very much, and she was doing the best that she could with what she had at the time. And so I've had to come to that place of appreciating that, letting go of anything that would have scarred me or created any negativity in my life, because I don't want to have that in my relationship with her now. I have this really very trusted relationship with her now. But when we were growing up, it was very tough. It wasn't any of the, the I love you, son, I love you, mommy. It wasn't any of that. That's what it is today, and it's very odd for me to be in this. Yeah, don't text me, love you, son, have a great day. And I'm like, who is this?
Person.
But it's been good. It's been, I've just used it as a positive experience, and use it in how I parent with my kids and in how I relate to my mom.
Excellent. And Marlon, I've noticed the fact that among your parenting responsibilities is the father to son bonding, the father to son intentional relationship building, right?
Yes.
So not having grown up with a father figure in your life, what has that been like in terms of where did you learn from? How do you parent a son or sons?
Yeah, can I tell you, I look around and I see examples. I won't say that they are examples. I see examples of a lot of men who really try to take care of their kids. Most of the guys who are in my circle, I consider them to be good fathers. But I was finding my way a whole lot. I had to become very intentional about learning. I did a lot of reading. I still do a lot of reading. I exposed myself to persons like Georgia, persons who are in the field who have knowledge, and I'll talk to them about challenges that I have. One of the great things that happened for me is that I had a lot of insight around what my behavior was, as opposed to what my child's behavior was. I had a lot of insight around that, and I would always be saying to myself, did you react the right way? What's in your space that caused you to react like that? And so I've developed a very apologetic relationship with my kids. They're used to me coming to them and saying, hey, I got that wrong. I completely overreacted. That wasn't about you. That was about me. And, they might be confused, but I still try to let them know that I am learning in this experience as much as they're learning, because I really didn't have someone who was there showing me what to do and what not to do. But one of the new spaces that I found myself in is I don't look at these things as mistakes. I really don't do that. I'm exploring the idea that I cannot make a mistake, and just allowing myself freedom and room to be myself, be with my kids. I know what my intention is, what's in my heart. I know what's behind what I'm saying, what I'm doing, and I know that that intention is pure and loving. And from that perspective, I can't make a mistake with them.
And you touched on something that I had lined up as the next thing to raise in the convo, which is another tenet of the positive parenting approach. And it says that parents have to own their stuff. You have to own your stuff before or while. You have to create a space where you are becoming more and more aware of what you're carrying from how you were parented, from past relationships, from expectations, etc., so that you can then know how to unpack that. And ideally, this might sound like it's hard to do, but you have to learn how to heal from that so that you do not pass it on to children. Georgia, talk us through what that process can look like in terms of how do you own your stuff? Because some people listening, I say, listen, me not confess to no pitness, and me not have it right, because they will walk all over you. And me not care what Marlon wants to say, what theme children them, me not tell them, say me sorry. And next time they're going to say, Mom, you sure you're getting it right? Daddy, you sure you're not making a mistake here? What practical tips can you give to the parents who are listening, and the prospective parents like myself, who want to be able to walk that journey in some level of excellence?
We have to think about the type of children we want to create, Kamala. And we know, notwithstanding, even the best laid plans will not necessarily go the way you hope for it to go. But if we want our children to be authentic, I noticed I didn't say honest, I said authentic. It needs to be true to self. Then we have to mirror what being true to self means. To say you're sorry to your child is not a sign of weakness. I think we have to, it's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of reflective practice for self, really stopping and saying, who am I? And why am I the way that I am? What are my good points? And what are the areas of myself that I need to work on? In becoming parents, we have to acknowledge our own experience of being parented. Yes. How we're parented, because sometimes we look at people and we say they're not doing a good job. It's easy to say that if you don't know what their history is, because sometimes they're doing a great job in comparison to where they're coming from.
Very true.
How we approach raising our children has a lot to do with how we were raised, whether or not we want to acknowledge it, because it becomes ingrained, it becomes a part of our DNA, it's evolutionary. If you think about things as simple as how we prepare rice, it's something that we we learn through our interactions and our engagement with the persons who first fed us rice and taught us how to eat rice. So, what type of parent do you want to be? I grew up in a household where my mother was very strict. I come from a very strong matrifocal family where beating, as we call it in Jamaica, spanking is the pretty word they use now, where that was the order of the day and that was the only form of discipline. And the fear of getting a spanking was enough to curb your behavior. And my mother has a PhD in spanking. I don't think it's her specialty. And I remember once I had a spelling book and I was studying words from the spelling book. And when my mother got home, she was a parent who checked your bag every day. She checked it to make sure that what she sent you out with had been returned. And she checked to make sure that nothing that she didn't send you out with was in the bag. And she checked that bag and that spelling book was not in there. And I was trying to tell her that the book was home because I had used it, but I couldn't produce it. So I got a proper beating, like an awful beating, right? And my mother was like a 40-pound child. My mother was maybe like a 200-pound woman. So, you know, there is David and Goliath. I didn't stand a chance. And when my mother was fixing up the house in the night, which is what our mothers do, they tidy up in the night, she found a book. It had slipped under a couch. And as a child, I was waiting for her to say sorry. And she said to me, "It's a beating for something that you did that I didn't know about."
Listen to me, Georgia. You've been through it.
Yeah,
you're a survivor.
A survivor. And I promised myself, and I have found, with my own children, that every time that other side of me rears up, because that side of me is there. I will say to my children, I can be vicious. Don't doubt it for a moment. I can be vicious. I choose not to be. So don't pull it out. But I have found with my own children that whenever that viciousness comes up, which is a part of my history, because that was my norm, to be beaten. Whenever it rears up and I'm in a position to stop myself. So I've learned not to respond to children in anger, to sometimes, to walk it out. That there's always probably reason for why they did the things they did. Because their mind is working in a different way than your mind. I remember my older son, his teacher complaining that he had done something and being very disappointed that he had done that. And I said to him, "I'm going to spank you when you get home because you know better." And when his father came home and his father said to him, "Why did you do what you had done?" You know what it was? It was confusion, because I had given him one instruction. And when he got to school, the teacher was given a different instruction. And he said to me, "Mommy, my brain was thinking. I was trying to figure out what to tell the teacher," because he didn't know who to listen to. Do I listen to what teacher is saying, or do I listen to what mommy has said I should do? And I felt so bad. I had to apologize to him. And then I had to go to school and apologize to the teacher because I was the root of the problem. So because you want your children to understand it's a normal part of life, is that we have errors in judgment. We make mistakes. We sometimes don't think it through. We don't always plan it. And also acknowledging that there are children and a part of childhood is making mistakes. I like to use the example, if you're Christian-minded, and whether you're not Christian-minded, I'm Christian-minded, so I'll use God as my reference. I would always say to parents who are equally Christian-minded that, listen, if they could raise themselves, God would have just dropped them from the sky. Would not have bothered to give them to us. So clearly, when he gave them to us, it was because he knew that there was a process, a purpose. So they're going to tell lies. That does not make them the worst person. They might even take things that they're not supposed to take. It don't mean that they're going to be a thief and police may lock them up. They're going to disappoint. They're going to fail exams. They're going to break things. They're going to mess up things. They will never be perfect, in as much as we will never be perfect. And if you are able to have that honest conversation with yourself, then it's not so hard when they don't measure up to what you expect them to measure up. You can check yourself and come back and say, where is that coming from? Why is this such a big deal? Why am I so bothered? Where is this hurt and this pain? Is it my child, or is it something that is inside me? I have this conversation with parents who expect their children to get 100% all the time. The joke is, many times those parents never used to get 100% themselves.
Not even almost.
Not even almost, But we have these bars for these kids that say they can't fail. And the moment they fail or they don't deliver in the way we say they should deliver, we give up or we crucify. And we have to remember that life does not work like that. Mm-hmm. So it's that authenticity, taking ourselves back. Have you ever done anything wrong before? What kind of kid were you? Did you give trouble? Did you tell lies? Did you sneak around? Did you steal out the food and the sugar and the milk powder out the fridge? You know, what were the things that you did that got you in trouble with your own parents? And what do you take from your parents? Because my mom was a great mom. So what do you take from your parents? And what do you want to modify? What do you want to do different with your own kids? And why do you want to do it differently? Yes. So we're not the baby with the bathwater. You know, I read something that says, you know, don't strive to give your kids all the things that you didn't have. Strive to have them learn the lessons you wish you had learned. And I thought that was so potent. You know, so my mother was a beater. I don't want to be known as a beater, but I still want to have discipline. So what do I want to do different? I probably want to have more conversations with my kids. I want to hear what was the thinking behind the act. So I know how I need to modify my parenting strategy to get them to think the way I think they should be thinking, or what variable do I need to adjust in the situation to get a different outcome from them.
So what I'm hearing, Georgia, it may sound daunting, but I feel like this is the way. The recipe is intentionality. The recipe is you have to decide, right? You have to decide that you want this more than anything else, more than how you want to, get rest, more than how you want to relax, more than how you want to just chill. It's important. I loved what you said, that you have to decide what kind of children do you want? What kind of people do you want them to become? And that is where the intentionality comes in, to be focused and deliberate about, okay, I should not say that. I have to check myself. Otherwise, if we're on automatic parenting, Georgia, because it's easy, we're going to end up missing a lot of important things. I want to jump over to Marlon, because Marlon, Georgia said something that struck me straight in my heart. And it led me thinking about how sometimes parents want to almost live vicariously through their children. So we kind of get very wrapped up in, listen, if my child don't get 100, as Georgia referenced, it's a poor reflection on me. And so because we don't have self-compassion and we may have self-worth issues, then we put so much pressure. It's like we are deflecting onto the children for them to make us feel worthy and valid. And that can create undue pressure on them and create all sorts of mental and emotional problems. Have you had any experience with that, Marlon, in terms of, letting your children be who they are and not making it so much about you and your needs and your validation?
Absolutely. In my parenting experience, I've always been pretty open and liberal about my kids being just separate individuals from me and not being me. Where I would have had more struggles would have been around what Georgia said about the lessons that I would have learned, because I grew up and had a lot of very interesting, varied experiences that were pretty tough, that they would not experience because of how I provide for them. And so there's always been an interest for me to have them learn those lessons in some way or the other. But in terms of their own academic achievement, I mean, my kids have always done well in school, and I've always allowed them to take the lead where that is concerned. So for example, my daughter came to me one day and she was like, Dad, I want to be on the honor roll. I was like, why do you want to be on the honor roll? And she was like, and she gave me a couple of reasons why she wanted to be on the honor roll. And I said, okay. I said, so what does this require? And she says, I'm going to have to study more, and can you help me with my spelling and stuff like that? And I said, okay, no problem if that's what you want to do. So we started doing spelling on the way to school every morning. We'd be doing spelling words, and I'd be testing her and stuff like that. And then she'd go and do her test. And then when she got her spelling trophy, right, and we were talking about it, I was like, so what's it like being on the honor roll? Is it what you wanted? And she was like, yeah. And then next time she came out, she was like, you know what? I don't want to be on the honor roll anymore. I mean, you know what it takes to be there. If it's important to you, then go ahead and do it. But if you don't want to be there anymore, that's also okay as well. Because I have a sense that they do well in school, so I don't have that issue with them. And I'm not trying to get them to get 100% or anything like that. I'm more interested in them learning more than anything else and understanding that they have choices. And so I haven't had that kind of experience. I've had the opposite experience with my son, who has the ability to get 100%, but is completely uninterested. And I've had to reconcile that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that he's uninterested in doing that. And so I said, okay, let's set a minimum bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't go below 75, please. And he said, all right, I'll do that. and that's okay.
And he's been true to his word.
And he's been true to his word, and he gets his 90s and stuff, but he's not. It doesn't mean anything to him. In the way that it means so much to a lot of other kids who are beating the books, and I didn't get 100% to them crying. Oh God, no, not at all.
Yeah. So I get the sense that he has a different locus of control, a different sense of motivation, and so he values different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I see Dacia, who is a repeat attendee. I love when you say, hi, Dacia. Dacia dropping a very important gem that sometimes parents forget that they were also children. And a way in which I see this manifested often as it relates to my work as a clinician is especially around sexuality and those very difficult topics. So when you were younger, right, as parents, you like boy, you like girl, you have feelings, you want to go on date, you want kiss, you want touch, you want explore. But as soon as your 13-year-old daughter or your 12-year-old son comes in and say, mommy or daddy, I like so-and-so, or you catch them behind the tree doing some little hanky-panky exploration, I like to call it, right? Parents literally start to freak out. And then we get the unrealistic bans. You can't talk to anybody from the opposite sex. I must not see you with Tommy, because Tommy's a bad influence. And we start to kind of freak them out in terms of managing this very important and powerful set of drives that constitute sexuality, right? Marlon, have you had an experience, right? Are you open to sharing what those conversations should look like or can look like in a healthy way, so that we don't give children the wrong impressions about especially this very important part of, autonomy over self, which we soon come to, and then of course the issue of sexuality and healthy sexual relationships.
Well, I mean, of course, I have a 16-year-old boy, and he likes girls. That's as much detail as I'll go into about his life. But so I've had to be in the space of dealing with that, dealing with how he wants to show up, what he wants to do, how he wants to interact. I've given him some hints as to what I think women as a whole like, and suggested ways in which he should treat people. And I've also talked to him about being his authentic self, because this generation is different from my generation. These guys are on Instagram, they're on this, and that's how they're talking to each other, And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of non-face-to-face contact, which allows for a lot of things to be said and not said, and because you're in front of the person, and the person might not be able to respond to you. So I've had to talk to him about respect, maintaining respect for women. I grew up around a lot of women, so I have a very strong value around respecting women. And so I've shared that with him and explained to him that it works best if that's what he does. And I've also had to get into space with him to allow him the freedom to see people, to go out, to bring people into the house, and to do things like that, and give him space and room to be able to operate, because the last thing I want to happen is for him to be exploring sexuality in a space that I'm not in. I don't want his 16-year-old friend to be telling him how to be interacting with a girl. I don't want that. I prefer to be in the space of that. And this applies not only to girls, this applies to whether it's alcohol or whether it's drugs or whatever the case might be. I want to be in space with him where we're having those conversations, and he can come to me and say, I want to try this, I want to try that. And my first response is not no. My first response is usually why. Who else is doing it? Why you want to do it? And then also explain to him some of the challenges around some of the things that he might want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So like he and I would talk about smoking as an example, and I'll say to him that, son, coming from a scientific view, the science is that if you start smoking weed before you reach 24, that's going to affect your brain development, and you're 16 years old. The last thing I want to happen to you is that you take on something and then it has an impact on you that is completely out of the blue. Please wait. I'm not telling you, I'm just saying wait until you're in a position where it's something that you can handle. And he says, okay, daddy, that's fine. I will wait. And I'll be like, well, I mean, if you're tempted and you feel whatever, let's talk about it again. It's not a one-off conversation, So we've had those conversations, but he's definitely exploring the girl space, and he's always been in that space, and it's very interesting to be in the space with him. I won't go into any more detail.
Marlon, how old did you say your daughter is, please? Because I hear you talking about the boy.
Oh, you mean my daughter?
Yes.
Well, I mean, she's just 11 now. She's not really so much into, actually, she has picked up a lot of his habits. So she's into gaming. So a lot of her friends are males. And I'll hear her on the, they meet in the games and they're playing together. So I'll hear her and I'll hear her talking to them and hear her interacting with them and stuff like that. And she actually will have more conversations with me around things like that. Like she will say, I like this person, or this guy looks good, or this guy. And she'll talk to me freely about things. You think so? Yeah. And, she'd be like, okay, well, this party's happening and I want to go and I need to get a gift for this person. And I was like, all right, that's fine, let's do it. So like I said, with her, it's very easy. That's just how our relationship has always been. I've heard that it will shift when she gets into teen. We'll see, but so far it's been very good. It's very open, and the two things I learned about parenting, the two lessons that I learned that I share with persons in this audience is be non-judgmental and love unconditionally. Those just be non-judgmental. I work on myself extremely hard to create a space of non-judgment because I want them to come in and say anything to me.
Excellent.
And I'm not going to respond to the tone or the whatever. I want to hear what they have to say. And creating a space of non-judgment to do that has been very, very important. And creating a space of unconditional love. No matter what happens, there's no way that you're not going to be my child anymore, no matter what happens. And so this is what's right, this is what's wrong, but it's not going to stop me from loving you. And it's not going to stop me from supporting you. Even if you have to take responsibility for something, I'm going to support you to take responsibility for it. And so that has been great so far.
And Georgia, I'm sure you will agree that Marlon is defining what we as clinicians hold very core, which is unconditional positive regard. We don't want children to go with a sense of conditional worthiness, where only if you do this are you worthy of my love and my affection. And it can be very difficult because we have strong feelings about many things. And sometimes it's really about us. And we have to come back to the positive parenting framework of what is in this child's best interest. How can I guide them while empowering them? So we're not going to call them these derogatory names. We're not going to tell them, say them worthless and them loose and them love man or whatever. We're going to have a conversation. And I see the attendees echoing Marlon's sentiments, reiterating what he's saying as these very powerful coaching moments in terms of building trust and rapport. I heard a colleague say to me one time that, listen, I create a space where my children can bring in the guy or the girl who them like into the house. And then now I just catch up my ears, right, at the window. I'm not going to impose myself, but I just catch up at the corner and I'm listening to everything. Because I want to see, as Marlon hinted at, I want to know if my daughter is a leader or a follower, so I can then know how to guide and to coach. I want to know if my son is being affected by peer pressure, etc. So Georgia, if you could give us a couple quick, maybe 3 things for parents to bear in mind as it relates to this openness and building trust and rapport. And we're going to jump into audience questions for both of you in a short while.
So, 1, in order for children to feel comfortable to be authentic around us, we have to be authentic around them.
Yes.
So then having a conversation, it's also living the life that we want to demonstrate for our children. So you can't be a smoker and tell your children not to smoke because it just doesn't go together. And even though we say that often, I don't think parents understand that. So the way they observe us, they're very observant, and they know when we're being deceptive,
yes.
right? We're lying when we're being hypocritical. They know us better than we know ourselves because they see us through, these unvarnished lens. They see us at our highs and our lows. So you have to, live the life that you want them to ultimately live. So be very conscious of that. If you're disrespectful, you're going to cultivate disrespectful children. If you're dishonest, you're going to cultivate dishonest children. They would have to get to a place for themselves where they're able to reject that and say, I don't want to be like my parents. But we very much create that for children. So that is 1, be that authentic person in their space. We also must give our children, I remember my mother coming to us when we were younger, because remember, she was a beta. And I think she realized that it was instilling a lot of fear. And I don't know what epiphany went off in her mind. And she says, if you tell me before I find out, I won't beat you. And I remember shortly after being told that my brother and I broke a vase. And we couldn't put it back together, try as we might. We were fighting and broke this vase. And, you know, we're just like, remember what you said? You said if we told you before you found out, you wouldn't beat us. So we broke the vase. And I could see, you know, her wrestle and struggle with that. But she was true to her word. You know, she did spank us. But also to listen to our children, to really listen, to have an appreciation of what it is. Because sometimes the eloquence is not there to put everything into words. Sometimes they hold back because they're gauging you to see. They feed you little bits. And if I tell you this part and you don't get upset, I'll tell you a little bit more. And if you don't want to get upset, I'll tell you a little bit more. So if you listen to them long enough, Marlon is shaking his head, you get the full story.
Yes.
But one of the things that I think is very important is to support our children in the cultivation of healthy friendships. When I was growing up, my parents used to say, it's not good to have friends. And they were not always very supportive of having friends. They wanted you to be alone. They wanted you to stand on your own 2 feet. And you must be the leader and the following one because you have to follow yourself and lead yourself because there's nobody else. But as I've gone older and I've interacted with a lot of clients, you realize the sorrow and the loneliness that comes with not having healthy, good, solid friendships. And I have always been a supporter of my children's friendships. I invest in these friendships. Mm-hmm. So I go to the birthday parties if it's 6 in a row because you recognize the value of the other people. Because if we invest in these healthy friendships, we set our children up on a sturdy foundation to move through life with a core support group because we can't always be with them. We will not always be with them. There will come a time when they're not listening to us, they're listening to the friends. So we want to know who are the friends they're listening to. So just like your friend said, Kamala. And if you support these healthy friendships, then you get to say to them, you know, I've been observing Georgia and I recognize a shift or a change and I have some concerns, what's going on there. And your children will have that conversation with you and will look into it themselves so that when they are older and they get overwhelmed with the stresses of life and you're not available, they already have this supportive network. That's what get through the difficult times. Because no matter how close we are to them, you know, there's some things that they will never tell us. It's just the laws of parent versus child roles. There's some things that will never be comfortable coming and saying, let me ask daddy this or let me ask mommy this. There's some things that, you know, are just meant for your friends, some experiences that are just enriched by those friendships. So if you cultivate those healthy friendships with your children, you actually put them in a good place and you teach them how to be a friend too.
Yes.
So not to be a taker, but also to be a giver in their friendship relationships and what a friendship is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. And that start to teach like healthy relationships, healthy dynamics, you know, and that benefits them later in life.
I love it. Georgia and Marlon, thank you for these gems that you're dropping. I saw a query in the chat about a very important topic in managing some relationships. And it is about Jen, I believe. Jen Sterling asked, how can both parents become civil and respectful to each other after a bitter breakup for the sake of the children? If I could have Marlon giving me some quick coaching on that, and then I will ask Georgia to just reiterate her typed response in the Q&A box. And then we have a giveaway and a birthday shout out coming up. So Marlon, how would you guide, suggest, you know, coach those who are listening to manage situations like those?
Oh, that's a very, very real situation. I've seen it in so many other persons, and I also lived the experience of parenting my kids separate from their mom, and it can be very challenging. The thing that I remember that drives me is to remember that it is about my children, and so it's not about me, or it's not about the other parent. It's about the children. I've seen a lot of situations where, as Georgia pointed out earlier, the children are really used as pawns in a situation like that, and there's a lot of manipulation that takes place, and it's very unfortunate. It's very sad. What I try to do is to create conversations around what I believe is healthy for the children, and they can be very challenging conversations. It requires a lot of vulnerability to be able to put aside any kind of differences that you have and to speak authentically concerning what you want for your children, and to be patient and to give space for compassion, because sometimes you may not be in the same place as parents. And so if you're the one who's in the space of understanding, then it's useful for you to create space for the other parent who is not, and just have compassion on them, because it usually means that they just can't see. If somebody's blind to something, it makes no sense for you to beat them up about it. It really makes sense for you to create a space for compassion until they get to the point that they can see. And the thing that I remember in my head about my kids is that kids are resilient. Kids are very, very perceptive, right? They know the dynamics of what's happening, right? And so, I don't get too concerned about whether or not every time I want to be able to see my kids, I'm able to see them, or if there's something that comes up that prevents me from doing that. I don't get concerned about that. I don't sow any seeds of discord against the other parent. I just look forward to the time that I get to spend with my kids and really enjoy that time.
Maximize that.
Really speak positive affirmations about their mom, because they have a great mom, right? So there is nothing like that. But I've learned that if you're the one who's seeing it, then you're the one who needs to give compassion and to create space for the other person, because that's what they need.
So again, we're coming back to the core piece of it's not about me, it's not about my partner or ex-partner. We really have to come together as the adults to really maximize the well-being of the children. And sometimes putting our needs and our desire to bend it, so that and to get back at people, put that aside, especially when you're having conversations in front of them. Georgia?
So the first thing that I want to say to that is, before we can be good parents, we have to take care of ourselves. Sometimes the worst of us comes through when we're overwhelmed, and then we ourselves. So make sure that we are taking care of ourselves before we decide to want to take care of our children. So that's one. Whenever parents separate for whatever reason, it's difficult on everybody. If there was not a good relationship before, it can be even more challenging to create a healthy space after you have separated. But what we have to understand is our children have no say in the choices that we make as adults. So they should not carry the burdens of those choices. Our children can't act as glue to keep us together, and they are not repellents that cause us to separate. If we meet with someone else, that is a choice that we make. And if we separate from the person, that's also a choice that we make. Our children should have no part and parcel in that. Whenever parents separate, children get the feeling that they have to take sides. And it becomes the responsibility of the parents or the adults involved. And when I say adults, I mean everyone, because, Jamaica, and I guess maybe in a lot of Caribbean households and certain families that are very family oriented, when people separate, everybody gets involved, or everybody's a part of the relationship.
Many times.
A child goes with a grandma and an auntie, and everybody has something to say about the other parent that doesn't come from that space of the family. And what you do is you put a burden on the child. So here's a child that sees their father as their hero. They worship this man, and that's a great for a kid. And then this father and this mother has separated, and you have grandma saying your father is a worthless boy, your father not providing for you, mother cussing out father. This child now goes through, like a disassociation. Is something wrong with me? How can I love somebody that's bad? Well, grandma says he's bad, and auntie says he's bad, and mommy says he's bad, and he's making mommy cry, so maybe he's bad. So you know what? My daddy is bad. But I want to be my hero. So maybe I'm bad because I love this bad person. And it creates, and I really want parents to understand, that we have to be mindful of the things, the emotional burdens that we put on children, because then they end up in your office and my office. And it's easier to prepare children for adaptive functioning than it is to repair maladaptive processes. So So if you're with a partner and you have gotten to a place where being together is not the best thing for either of you, there's no shame in that. Step away. But when you step away, be reminded that there was a point that you made children or a child together, and come to a place where you can parent together. If you know for a fact that the other parent is toxic, then seek legal help in removing that parent from the child's circle for now, or moderating how much that parent gets to express their toxicity on the child, because that is the reality of life. Some people are toxic, yes, and they pour children. We know that much. But please know that you don't score any brownie points by making the parent look bad. I won't call any names, but I remember I had an experience early in life. It's a personal experience where somebody close to me was separated from their husband, and it wasn't a wonderful separation, and they had a child. And the husband at the time, I believe, wasn't working, and that parent was going to fund the child going to see the husband. And I said, why would you do that? If he's the father and he's not living up to his responsibility, I was young, I was probably 16 at the time, why should you support it? And she said, because it's her father. And being with her father is beneficial to her. It doesn't matter that I don't like him. That's inconsequential. And she says, I don't have to tell her the type of person he is. In her own time, she will figure that out for herself. And that's exactly what happened. And that was, you don't have to tell your children anything bad about the other parents. If they're a bad parent, the child will figure it out on their own. You don't need to spin that narrative. If I buy a pencil for my kids and they say, who bought it? Daddy and mommy bought it. It doesn't matter if it was my $5,500, $5,000 I buy. I don't get any brownie points by saying I bought it, because I want my children to believe that there's equal love coming from both sides. There's equal value coming from both sides. There's equal importance coming from both sides. So, just to be conscious of that the children should never be in the middle. Never. They should have no part and parcel in adult conversations, yes, and adult interactions. Just allow them the freedom and the joy of being children.
Georgia and Marlon, you hit the nail squarely on the head. I feel like these are practical and they are so truthful. And if I feel as though people can write these down and walk away from the space practicing these, Georgia, to see tremendous impact in their, managing separation conversations and spaces. I would love to give a big JN Cares shout out to Miss Pansy Murphy, who is celebrating a birthday on today, July 1. Happy, happy, happy and blessed birthday to you, Miss Pansy. If you are here, just say yay in the comments and show some love to JN. We thank you for sharing even a piece of your birthday celebration with us and your fellow classmates in the JN Life class series. I really appreciate it. And I hope you'll have an amazing new year, right? Because I believe birthdays are New Year celebrations. I'd also love to pause here to give away something, because we're in the JN Cares live class and JN does care. So we have some credits, $1,000 call credit to give away to someone with very, very quick fingers. So if it is that you have a Flow device, then this is your chance to win $1,000 call credit. Are you ready? I'm going to read the voucher numbers to you quickly, and let me see who will be the first person to grab it. So the numbers are 19 2528 2329 2149. And if you get it, just raise your hands or send some love in the comment section. All right. Yeah, man. Kamara, did you say it's coming up? Did you say it's coming up, Kamara? Fret not yourself. We have another one to give away before the segment ends. And thank you for being so quick to ask that question. So as we are about to wrap it up, I see a question here. I agree with you, Mrs. Rose, but so I'd love to hear what the but is. I think it's Jen Sterling. But as we prepare to segue from this segment into the next, Trishana has won. Congratulations, Trishana. You are quick on the draw. I love it. You read the line credit too fast. I'm sorry, Station. It's not bad, mine. I just talk fast. All right. So to wrap up our segment, this very powerful first segment in our conversation this evening, I'd love to ask Marlon and Georgia about feedback that they may have gotten from their children. And what was it like hearing their truth? Because we know they can be very, very honest. What was it like, and what kind of feedback did you get that was most surprising to you from your child or children? Marlon, let me start with you.
So in in preparation for this, I actually polled my son and asked him what kind of parent I was, and he said, "Oh, it was actually very interesting because he just sat right there and he goes, oh, well, you know, you're easy to talk to, and you're open to most things, and you're not a dictator." And I was like, okay, all right, thank you very much for that, son, because it took us a minute to get there because there was a point when that wasn't there, and I had to really work very hard at allowing his voice. Because I saw someone in the chat asking about anger management. And I used to see my son get very angry a lot and literally clenching his fist and stuff. And I found out that what was happening to him was that his voice wasn't being allowed. So he would want to say something and he'd be spoken over and he'd not be listened to. And it would happen to him a lot in school, and it would happen to him, and he would get so mad about it, right? And then it became very important for me to talk to him about that, okay, son, express the emotion that you feel. Because I don't think we should allow them to bottle emotions, and I don't have a space where he's gonna say something that's gonna scare me. You know, and I'm gonna run away or whatever. I want to be able to express his emotion and then to create space. And I think out of that experience of creating a room for him, when I hear him say that I'm easy to talk to, you know, that really resounds with me, because that tells me that he feels that he can come to me and he can talk to me pretty much about anything. And he says, I'm open to most things. So he feels he can come to me and he can talk to me about anything that's on his mind, and that you get a listening ear. And that's what I want to create with him.
I want to raise my paddle in support of that moment. That's a beautiful and powerful parenting moment, Marlon, because it's beautiful to actually hear a success story that's so practical and really heartwarming too. And it speaks to intentionality and a learning journey. You didn't wake up and achieve that. And it's okay that we, you know, parents make mistakes. However, you continued, you know, as parents in his life, you continued. And you're at this point now where he can say it's such a hugely validating thing to you that he can talk to you about anything. That is going to be a life-changing reality for him. So kudos to you, and thank you for sharing on that. Miss Georgia Rose, have you gotten any feedback from your children? And what has that been like?
My smaller children think I'm the best thing since sliced bread. For just making a cake, oh mommy, you're the best. Or buying cake, you know. If I think about my older, I think there would have been times when it should have been afraid to approach me, because I can be harsh, and I know that. One of the things, we had a conversation very early once when she had lied to me, and when I asked her why she had lied, she said because I would get upset and I would punish her. And the conversation that came out of that was, my response is not, you know, like, what would you say now? My response is not the ticket for her to determine whether or not she's going to tell me something. She just has to tell me. I have the authority as a parent to determine what the consequence will be. So she doesn't get to withhold some information based on whether or not she believes it will be received in a favorable light. If I said I've never been upset, I would be lying. You know, parenting pulls these passions out of you. That, you know, I remember one time Kamala said there's two Georgia as Georgia and Georgia as a parent. It's a different persona. But it is a process, because you amend yourself, and sometimes you do things that they don't even have to give you feedback to tell you. You can, within yourself, you know that's not what you wanted to do. And you make a note of that next time you're in that space to respond in a different way. So I guess, yeah, I think for the most part, she, you know, I always found it interesting that my older one, she knew me so well. So she knew it was something that would be a good conversation, she would tell me. But if she knew it was something that would be a bad conversation, she would never tell me. I would find and she would say, I know that you wouldn't give me the response I would want, but I would find out. And I was able to challenge her on that one time. You know, it's like, you tell me all sorts of things. So you tell me what you know is going to, you know, you tell me the easy stuff. Right. Ones that you know I'm going to be like, no, that's not an option. Then you withhold that. So, you know, it's, yeah. So when once are older, maybe I'll get some more feedback, you know, and our boys versus girls. But right now I'm the best thing. If you ask them, there's nobody like me.
Enjoy it.
Friends make you the greatest parent, you know, so I'm riding on that right now.
Ride it until the wheels fall off. I would like to give such a huge thank you to Marlon Cooper and Georgia Rose for taking the time to sit with us and not only show up, but show up, you know, and be present and be authentic in this journey, sharing their journey towards positive parenting. I'm grateful. And based on the comments in the chat, obviously, the attendees are very grateful as well. Awesome job, both of you. Before you go backstage to come back on towards the end, just to say goodbye to everybody, I just want to tease out a couple of the responses. I see Jen, who had raised the issue, managing spiteful parents, managing, you know, separation. Jen went on to say that, I'm trying to find it. Some persons are very difficult to deal with, and they will be spiteful and even hold the child or children hostage just to hurt the other parent. But in reality, they are only scaring and damaging the children or the child. And that's so true. And as Georgia intimated, there are resources that can help. So if it is that you're not able to have a conversation with your partner about the best interest of the child, there are things you can tap into to help to manage those conversations, mediation, counseling, and of course the legal services as well, to make sure the child's best interests are being upheld. So we hope it doesn't come there, but if it does, there are things that we can do. So for all of you, can you please raise your hands with me as we give a big round of applause to Marlon and Georgia for the awesome job that they have done. And we're going to be segueing into our second, and big up JN for creating this space too. I'm so grateful. We're going to segue into our second segment with the Ellis family, Ity Ellis. We know him as Ity, but his name is actually Ian. So Ian Ity Ellis, his wife Karen Ellis, and their two daughters, Najali and Nastasia Ellis, are going to jump on stage with us. And we're going to talk all things positive parenting. Are we going to laugh? I'm sure. And we're going to have another expansive leg of the conversation. But before we get there, a quick reminder that you can allow your friend to win something nice this evening. You have the opportunity to drop in the comments the name of the person who referred you to Life Class, and the person who has referred the most persons will win an Amazon gift card by the time we end our segment this evening. So let me welcome on Ian, Karen, Najali, and Nastasia. Welcome, Ellis family. How are you doing on today? So colorful and nice. Hi, everybody. And you have your paddles up already.
Yes.
I love it.
She's fanning the heat.
Yes. I must tell you, attendees, that I have started to engage with the Ellis family. The energy is all the way up. Yes, they have been excited, and I'm excited now to have them on and for us to talk about this journey towards parenting. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for making it to Life Class today. And you are the stage lockers. You're locking the stage for the seventh and final episode of Life Class. It's all of you. Just a quick thing. I believe there's some feedback from your micro. Not sure if it's a fan, but we're hearing a little bit of like wind in your micro.
That's my microphone. All right, let me.
Okay, turning off the fan.
Welcome again. You all look so beautiful and you all look alike, by the way.
Thank you.
The resemblance is there. I'm so happy to have my family because the only time I hear the word beautiful that describes me is when I have my family.
I see they bring you off nicely, is what you're saying.
Yeah, madam, carry on.
Very nice. So let me first of all jump to, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit and jump to Najali and Nastasia first, right? Najali and Nastasia, what can you share with us about the parenting job that Ity/Ian and Karen have been doing? What have you been learning over there about parenting from these, your two teachers?
We are learning so much. A very loaded question. All right, so very nervous. All right, so pretty much my parents have two different parenting styles. First of all, my father is the disciplinarian. You know, he's the stricter of the two, but very fun at the same time. My mother is the nurturing one. You know, she's definitely a person that will cuddle you until you're 50. But pretty much, they teach me a lot about patience, because to raise us requires a lot of patience. You know, they definitely try to just teach us how to be good persons in the world. They instill values in us, you know, being kind. First of all, they're very kind persons. They are very hardworking. They're loving persons. They're also very fun. Like, it's a very fun family. Like, it's like, we're no boring. So that's a thing. Like, we love to laugh. So pretty much just being in this family teaches us how to just experience life, how we can, and pretty much just have a good time.
Excellent. And then over to Nastasia. Welcome to the space. What would you like to share about your parents' parenting style?
I mean, what else should I say after that episode that my sister already gave? Honestly, I agree with everything. We live in a very fun and relaxed family. Like, they're the kind of parents that we can go to about anything. You know, we establish a relationship where we can talk to them about anything. We're very open with each other. So it's a very comfortable space. You know, some persons, even though they're in a family, they're not necessarily close. I think we're close, and we love to have fun. We always, like, if you see one of us, we're always together. Like, for the most part, we're always together. So if my dad has a show, he'll bring us with him, to the point where some of his colleagues ask him or ask us why we cannot be apart. Even my friends at school are like, when they invite me out, I'm just like, no, I'm going with my family, and we're always together. So I think that's one of the things about us that I like, is that we try to do everything together. And I think it's because they have just established that relationship with us where I'm comfortable with them. So there are differences, as Najali said, in their parenting styles, but they both complement each other well. And yeah.
Excellent. So I'm hearing a lot of good things, Ian and Karen, right? So good job on that. And we'd love to come to you two now to hear about this difference in parenting style stories. Did it come from how both of you were parented that you think has accounted for these differences? So let me start with Mr. Ian. Mr. Ity.
I'm happy that she highlighted the disciplinarian in me, because of my career, people think that when I come home, it's a show. So they would ask them, why your father come here and so I come here to show? I say, okay, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know, it's not a show at all, you know. And I think Karen was responsible for doing that, especially in the early years, you know, when I remember quite often when they would leave school and go to stay with Karen, where she worked at the time. And if something went wrong, she threaten, I'm going to call your father. So that became the threat for many years, you know, especially with that one over there, Nastasia, because the way Karen worked, you know, there are things there that need not be broken, you know, and she was sometimes troublesome at the time. So I would be called often to come and administer the discipline. And I have a roller coaster of experiences administering that discipline. Some good, some bad, you know? But that is...
Yeah, sure. For me, though, like Najali and Nastasia said, I am more the nurturer. So I tend to still, at this point, do things for them. So I will still make their bed, you know, stuff like that.
Not
so,
my bed.
I would still do stuff for them because I just have that in me. I think I'm so protective of them that I still think they are, you know, little kids. Yes, you know, so I mean, I think that's one of the things. And also for me is that I have Ian with me, you know, so we bounce things from each other.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, we share things. So whatever comes up, you know, as it pertains to the children, we will share. We'll first speak about it before we try to, you know. Right.
A lot of discussion.
So we're still learning, you know, as old as they are, we're still learning. So, yeah.
And that's an important thing for our life class audience to hear and to, you know, of course, to repeat it, is that it's a journey. So I don't know that any parent ever reaches a point where they say, yeah man, reach now.
No,
I am a parent.
Definitely
So
not.
a learning journey.
not at all, not at all.
Absolutely.
Right.
Was unpacking what you learned from your parents an important piece in your journey, Karen and Ity? Did you have to make peace with maybe some mistakes that your own parents made so that you didn't bring it forward into your own parenting dynamic?
Yes. For me, because I didn't spend much time with my parents. I didn't have my father around much. So that's one of the things that I'm appreciative of. And to have Ian around in the family is a big plus for me.
Yes.
You know, having the father in their life, you know, is a plus for me. Because I didn't
intentional.
Yes.
And for you, Ian, did you have to unpack, unlearn, manage how you were parented, what their styles were like versus how you want to be as a parent?
Yes, because similarly to Karen, I didn't go with my father, my biological father, but I spent years with my stepfather, that kind of dynamic. So that was my experience. And the irony is, as Karen shared about her being the nurturer, and I watched her, and she, I don't think I've said this in this way, but watching Karen and them is like my mother and me. The exact same thing. It annoys me to watch her nurture them to that level, but I was the exact same child. But the thing is, I was the last child. So my older sister, like, you had a little black prince, so she, so I felt like I was being treated specially. So in terms of nurturing, I got order from my mother. But I didn't meet father till way after, when I became an adult. But I had a stepfather who, I must say quickly, really spent a lot of time ensuring that my self-esteem was intact. He valued education. He was showing off my reading skills from a very early years, when I was much younger. I'm talking about before 12, So that's what I remember. And that's something that I highlight even in my comedy, but it's something that I remember, that it is with me now because of that background, because I want to read. He comes over the newspaper, the first thing I do, I grab the newspaper and read it, because I know that he likes to see me reading, and I read it, and I will be rewarded for the reading too. So he take me to his workplace, and I will read for his friends and show me off reading for them. And the irony is that the brothers I followed weren't able to read. So think about that. It's 8 of us, and the 2 brothers I followed were, in real terms, not very literate at all. So I don't know what were my influences, why I was able to, because when you think about it, you would get some of what you learn as a last child from the child that you follow.
True.
Because of that child, So that's in a nutshell my experience. Absentee, a father, a stepfather, and a nurturing mother.
I'm going to jump back to the 2 princesses, right? The 2 young queens, just to get a sense of what kind of lessons do you feel as though you are learning in your family about love, about marriage, and about parenting. So if it is that you choose that journey for yourself, what are some of the takeaways that you believe have been instilled in you by your parents as it relates to these big ticket items? Let me start with Najali.
Okay, so having married parents for me, it's like having experiments in the house. I can actually observe what a marriage looks like from early. And I can tell you, it's not fun and games, It's literally life partnership. It is seen that you're friends first, but you're also lovers. And for me, it just really shows that marriage is not a fairy tale. You know what I'm saying? It's not, yes, happily ever after. I mean, it's pretty much just seeing people live together. They're literal partners. So my parents, they're married for 23 years. And growing up with them, seeing how they communicate, it's just seeing how people, it's seeing how adults adult.
Yes.
You get me? So it's just seeing them, I don't know, just communicate, how they discuss money, how they spend time together, how they try to have date nights together, how they try to discipline us, they do, yes. And it's just see how they complement their parenting styles with us. And yeah, watching them, I want to get married. It's a goal of mine. It definitely also showed me the bad side to marriage as well. It showed me that it requires a lot of communication to be successful. And that's always it's a cliche, but it's necessary for you to be able to be on the same level as a next person to have harmony. So yeah, watching them, I want to get married because, you know, and so it was love, you said, love, marriage, and what else? Money?
Love, marriage, and money, yes.
Money, okay. All right. They have two different personalities, right? Daddy is a spontaneous person. He's on the go. And because of that, we enjoy a very, I guess you could say, extravagant life, if I say so myself. But because of that, he isn't a good saver, if I say so myself. And he always says to me, Najali, ensure say it's safe, because it took me a long time to learn that. So being a young adult now, you know, just working now, trying to find my footsteps in work, I'm trying to learn how to be smart with my money, you know, how to invest, how to save, and pretty much not live check to check. And while it's not like we have like an actual like talks with them, it's more so implicit, like just observing them and how they operate, how they, you know, make ends meet, how they ensure that we aren't living in a cardboard box, how they seeing them be responsible with the bills, you know, pretty much ensuring that they're upstanding citizens, and using that to emulate them to see how I want to be when I am their age.
Wow, that's so powerful. Ity and Karen, did you know that that Najali thought these things with you and was learning these things so intentionally?
No, sir.
Not at all. I'm hearing new things.
Yes, I have to go and watch this back.
So big up life class for unearthing the gems within the Ellis family tonight, right?
Yes.
Do you want to ditto your sister, and what else would you want to add or take away?
Honestly, how do I even follow that up? Like, all right, well, for marriage, all right, how do I even follow this up? Well, one thing that, you know, because we're also Christians, so one thing that my father especially always like reminds us of or teaches us is that our husband ought to love God more than he loves us. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, as Christians, you know, it's all about God first. That God is at the center, at the top, and then everything else just falls under that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's probably one of the most important things that he has taught me that I definitely will be seeking you know, in a husband, because I also do want to get married. Mm-hmm. And observing their marriage, I have noticed certain things that I definitely you know, are making notes of for how I want to, you know, interact with my husband. And as Najali said, like, communication is very important. And so I've been making a few notes of, you know, how they interact with each other, how they live as a couple. And as Najali said, it's not a bed of roses. Like, there are many challenges every day. And sometimes, to be honest, sometimes the amount of challenges that I see them have, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, I'm just like, this because you know what in my space, like, just there, like, the fact that it's not just you anymore, but like us. It's like, I don't want to be thinking about somebody else all the time. Like, so it's the commitment that a marriage takes, first of all. I mean, come on. I'm still learning how to commit to God, much less another person. Yes. So it's definitely going to be a journey, but I think it has really been important for me to grow up with married parents, and I have many friends who don't. They either live with the mother or the father or whatever. I have also friends who have dysfunctional families. Mm-hmm. And while we definitely are far from perfect, I'm grateful that I have a stable couple to look at and look up to, as for what I want in a marriage. Like, for example, one thing that I definitely want in my marriage that I've observed in theirs is I want a weekly date night with my husband. Like, they had this thing, I think, for like a few months, like every Friday is just like them go to movies. And we, like, me personally, I always like to crash their dates. Even if it's their anniversary, like, I want to come. Like, I don't give them space. I want to come. So I'm just like, I'm still your child, I want to come. But definitely, I think it's healthy for, even though you're married, I think it's healthy to still date the person, because as my mom said earlier, you're still learning, you know, no matter how old you are, you're still learning. I mean, and even in marriage, what I have observed with my parents is that you change over time.
Yes.
My mother has changed so much from the reserved person she was. And now she's far more outspoken. And I think I'm gonna have to probably gear up for the fact that in a marriage, I know how I start off won't be how I end. Like over time, I have to brace myself for the fact that my partner is gonna change, and I have to be ready to embrace those new flaws that are gonna come up. So definitely, I have been learning a lot through just looking at their marriage, things that mistakes that they have made that I don't want to make, and just principles that I want to carry on. And as for money, oh gosh, my father has really been teaching us about money. As my sister said about saving, he really instills saving, you know, to the point where sometimes I will, if I'm saving for something, I will literally sacrifice my lunch just to save. So like I'm the kind of person where I think I'm a good saver, because I will literally sacrifice things just because I know I have an end goal to meet. So like last year I was saving for a phone, and I remember just like sacrificing buying lunch some days just to save up towards it. And my father is the kind of parent where he encourages you to save, and then like even if you don't meet the full goal, he'll meet you halfway. Exactly. So like for example, last year I saved half the money that my phone cost, and then he met me with the other half. So that was really encouraging, knowing that, you know, he is supporting me financially, and he's just always encouraging us to, you know, have our own business, have our own money. And he's been teaching us about investing. And for me personally, like a goal of mine is, because I don't want to be completely dependent on my husband. So a personal goal of mine is I want to have my own house first before I get married. And then when I do get married, I want to buy a new house with my husband and rent out the other house and have that as earnings. So, and that's something that I have observed with my parents. We own a house now that we live in, but they also have, we also own another home that, you know, we have rented out. And so that's something that I also want to do in my life as a consistent earning every month. So I've definitely been learning a lot about just by watching them. I've been learning a lot.
Wow.
No, Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, first of all, have you all raised our paddles to awesome parenting moments? And can we also have our attendees drop some yellow and blue emojis in the chat for Ity, for Karen, for Nastasia and Najali, but especially for JN for creating this beautiful space, right?
Yeah.
And Ity and Karen, I don't know them like that, but I'm happy. I'm proud. And the attendees are so excited. They're really giving such big commendations to your two beautiful young queens for the level of intelligence and for the role that you have been obviously doing as parents. So first of all, I'm a little confused because I think Nastasia was the shy one, because she was saying, how can I top that? But she just gave a bigger epistle. Not Najali.
I know.
Yes. So congratulations, parents, because what I'm hearing is not a romanticized version of marriage nor life nor parenting. It's real, but there's also so much value, right? So let me jump over to Ity now. You look surprised to hear some of these things. Talk to us, Ity.
You said it first. Finish what you were saying, Kamala.
I'm saying go ahead and give us your feedback to sitting and listening to your two daughters sharing so openly about your marriage, about your parenting. How you feel?
You know, Karen said it. We learn every day. Because here am I thinking that, oh, we have regular discussions, we have conversations. They didn't even, she said months, we go everywhere all the time. Anniversaries, they can't even remember which anniversary will go without them. You know, birthdays. I mean, by the way, tomorrow is Najali's birthday, so you can tell her happy birthday from now. Yes. You know? But I tell her something, I can share this. She doesn't know this, I'm gonna share this.
Yes, please.
Karen and I had a discussion today, so a nurse the word discussion,
yes, please,
that escalated in an argument about her birthday, and I had to take a walk. I just walked out, you know, because I said nothing is going to interfere with our space today. But the truth is, I'm being adept at adapting to her new persona. And as I said it, she's much more outspoken. I met a shy young woman years ago that, you know, that wouldn't communicate so openly and so candidly, but now whatever she feels, she's gonna express it. But we thank God. We thank God for everything. So the point is, what I'm hearing, I wouldn't have heard outside of this platform. So I mean, this is an experience for me. And and I know what I think last Sunday my brother shared at church, and he was saying, do not focus on the things that you try to teach them, like learn this, learn that. Recognize that is the things that you are modeling that they really learn. And it is so powerful because I realize so many other things we can do. If we're going to start, we probably have to talk about it tomorrow. But there are so many things that I observe that they learn or adapt because it's something that we were doing. And it's not they learn this, learn that. It's just what we were being. So I tell you something, the most part, if you don't remember anything, is you have to be what you want them to be. That's the most powerful way to teach them anything, to be it. And that's the biggest challenge, to be, because I heard the discussion earlier. Georgia was speaking about the parent want the child to get 100, but that parent is not getting 100 in the because so it's tough to say that, to say if you want the child to be excellent, be an excellent parent, it's tough to say that because it's a challenge in and of itself. But the truth still remains that in some strange way, what they learn and what is permanent is the thing that you have modeled. Like some similar like music that I like to listen to. I realized I was listening to the same. I was saying, what was it? But I didn't realize she was listening when I was listening. So you have to, and for me, especially as a man, to hear them talk about their aspirations for marriage and husband, I am so thankful to God for this moment that I can really sit here and hear them say this, because that was my dream, my goal. So Father, help me to be the man that I want to see my children bring home. Help me to be that man that I want to see that I can have, we can enjoy mutual respect for. Help me. And as I said, it's a challenge every single day, it's not a bed of rose, it's not a joke, it's not a show when I come home, it's life, it's real. And we have been blessed to have so many different experiences, perhaps because of my career, to go different places, but true, we have had our struggles in many ways, real to like anybody. Anything that you have experienced, we have experienced. And this is one season, COVID-19, that every single person experienced almost the same things in different ways, at different levels. So it's really a joy to hear them speak so candidly, so openly, so fluently, so confidently.
Yes.
I honestly, for a moment, I said, my God, man, what a God bless you, man. The pretty man, so intelligent.
Yes.
And, so it's really, a joy, and that's another thing too. Another thing, the education is so important. And that's what I got. My mother should jump and down when I pass Jesus. I mean, well, come on. But I share joke with them all the time. But the truth is that what I realize I'm sharing, what is the foundation of education for what my stepfather did to me. You know what I mean? So that's Johnny, when she was younger, she always wanted us to read for her every single night. I'm tired sometimes, I can't, but I read. You know what I mean? We just think that because she was the only child at the time. I said, maybe she needed a brother or a sister. You know what I mean? Yes. So, but the truth is, I see it manifest now in our life.
Because even when we didn't want to, we still, go ahead and read for her because we know the importance and we didn't want her to lose that.
No.
So we tried every night, to read to her.
I can't finish a book now, naturally.
She's on it.
Yes.
I see a comment here that I want to take before I ask Mrs. Ellis to give us her feedback on hearing her young queen speak so passionately and beautifully tonight. Janet Brown says the Ellis family brought real lessons, particularly that marriage should be between best friends first, willing to work hard on communication, on growing and learning together, and based on deep respect. You have to be what you want them to be. I love that. And I fully concur with those sentiments. Karen, how you feel hearing Najali and Anastasia talk the things like this?
I am honestly just so proud proud. Some of the things that they speak about, I'm still here wondering, because some of the things you don't even remember.
Yes.
You know, some little things that they are bringing back up, and I'm like, really? I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, we were doing something good, you know, because even when you think you're not doing the right thing, you know, they are taking it, you know, and tuck it somewhere in them that now they can speak about it so openly. And I'm just sitting here listening to both of them and, you know, hearing both of them speak, and I'm just saying, wow,
Blessings.
you know, blessings.
Blessings
You know?
on top of blessings.
I'm just feeling happy that, you know, so much they want to take away from us, because when we were here thinking that, oh, we're not perfect and we're not this, and we, you know, we need to top up on this, and they now are saying that I want to do this like my mother, then it just goes to show that, wow, the things that you take for granted, look at that. We're teaching them and not even knowing that we're teaching them.
Yes. Patricia Ryan says, I'm feeling proud of them and they're not mine. Keep up the good work, Mom and Dad. You know, I heard, I don't know if you as a family have attended any of the previous life classes, but I feel like I heard Nastasia and Najali echo so many big people sentiments about relationships and about love and about money and about life. And I'm heartened because we need this in the next generation, Ity and Karen. And so I hear them talking about the fact that, listen, marriage is really a life partnership. It's not no perpetual honeymoon. It's not no romanticized, you know, Bills and Boons and Daniel Steele fantasy. It's two people deciding to be partners in everything. And sometimes people don't realize that taking out the garbage is a real part of living married life, and washing up the plates, and who spread the bed, right? And who not keep the bathroom clean, and who pay the bills late, and so on. These are the non-sexy parts about marriage and relationships that I feel we have to teach children and teach young people. And you are here just showing us that it can be done. So I feel so good about that, right? I also heard, I think it was Karen mentioned and Ity mentioned that, you know, you guys have made mistakes. So to kind of enrich the conversation in terms of those who may be making those mistakes right now, what are some of the things that you realize that were not the best thing to do at different points in the journey, and how have you overcome those?
So the best thing to do, or in terms of mistakes?
Right, so mistakes that you may have made on the parenting journey, and how, you know, what are some of the things that you realize were not the best things to be doing, and how did you overcome those?
You know, I want to jump on that because it's something that I discovered in a discussion with my family. I think it was a devotion, you know, but one of the things that if I could relive, I would remove corporal punishment from my relationship with my children as the disciplinarian, you know, to find some other useful way to discipline them. Because I grew up in that corporal punishment. My mother, I'll tell you something, she gives me. But you know, I'm thanking her. I'm saying I'm thankful to her because I grew up in Trenchtown and Rima, and boys, it's tough to grow up boys in the inner city because the influences and the distractions are every single day. And I know I'm thinking about it. No, here she growing up boy with a man who never fathered any of her children, so he's stressed to have to be a stepfather to all his children. None of them belong to him. And here she having challenged with her previous children that she probably was placing all her hope in this last child, the wash belly. So I think she was trying to ensure that I don't miss. So I would be in for simple things. I'll go out, and because I come in late, I get it, and I get it often. So I can't remember one particular beat for her mother because there are so many. But I remember when I hear my younger daughter speak about my disciplinary, I'm saying, if I could go back and remove that. So that's a mistake I think I would openly say I made, you know, in going, you know.
Appreciate that.
I overcame that. Thankfully, over time, we discovered that that's obviously not the appropriate way to discipline them. And I'm happy that we discovered that, or else we probably would be carrying some trauma that would make this discussion very difficult, you know? So I'm happy. That's one mistake from my part.
Thank you for sharing that so vulnerably and so authentically as well. Karen, what would you say on your part?
I go back to, I remember when Najali was around, what, 12, 13? She was in first form, and she did an interview, a radio interview, and the interviewer asked her if, you know, she had a problem, who she would turn to, if it's her mother or her friend. I remember she said her friend. And, you know, at that time, I was saddened. I like, wow, because, you know, I'm not doing enough then, you know, that she wouldn't want to come to me, you know, and going to her friend. So, you know, that was something that I thought about and say, you know, maybe I need to talk to her more, maybe I need to encourage her more, and whatever I'm not doing, I need to do it, you know. So for me, that was one of the things that I think I remember.
Excellent. And you know, I heard Ity just sharing openly about how he feel hearing Najali and Nastasia speak tonight, you know, expressing their sentiments. And he mentioned that I think is Nastasia in particular, he's a little bit pleasantly surprised to hear her so bold and so outspoken. And I feel as though it speaks the confidence, that self-assuredness. She's growing into herself. She has grown into herself. And I believe that that's an important piece of the parenting legacy too.
Yes, yes.
Giving your children the affirmation that you are great, you are enough, you are brilliant, you can do it.
Yes.
Have you been intentional in that way, Ity and Karen, about helping them to come into their own in terms of their confidence and self-worth?
Boy, I tell you, alhamdulillah, because, you know, I start from the surface. I tell them often, you're beautiful girls. They don't believe it. I say, you say mother is beautiful, right? I say, yes, all right. Who you look like? Mother, all right. Then. If your mother is beautiful and you look, then you are beautiful. I'm not saying because of your father. I'm telling you you're beautiful. And as I go, I tell them, hug them, I express love to them, because it was important for me as I learned that if their self-worth, if I don't play my role as a father to ensure that self-worth is enhanced, I'm intentional about. And I heard, I don't know if she's going to share tonight, shared with me some challenges that she experienced growing up, and how my imparting and reminding her how beautiful she is was very important to her. Now, education, oh my word, I mean, that's very, very important. I remember picking up Najal. It's a story I share with her all the time. When the teacher called me and said, she don't know, Najal is a bright child, but she has this friend who's not doing very well, and because they are close now, Najal is great, it's falling. I pick up the evening, and when I drive, from I pick up at school, me I talk. When I stop talking,
drive stop.
I drive, I park, and I talk. I think I did a show. I think I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure. I said, feel like. So it went. I sweat, my sweating up. My work, please, you know. Don't play with my work. You know what I mean? So I was really, because I don't want them to feel. I want them to see the value of education, especially Najali, because she was doing so well. But I can thankfully say, happily say, that I don't know if that worked, but she changed and aced and went to a high school where if your academic result are standing at a certain level, you cannot go there. That's how it is. So I was very, very proud. So I have to share that to say, one, self-worth, how they feel about themselves, you know, the outside, and how they feel about themselves inside, and decency. You know what I mean? It's something from they were young, like from about 10, I think it is, what's the name of the building that worked? Oh my God, her name escapes me now. Miriam. Okay. And she came up and said, Ity, tell your daughter, say, virginity is special. Why I say, I tell her every day, virginity is special, you know? I give the book to me. So I mean, the self-worth, the education,
and decent, to be confident as well. And
to be confident. I said,
teach them not, you know, be a leader and not a follower. We constantly tell them that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So now I am hearing this. I'm hearing how they are representing themselves.
Yes, very confident. Yeah.
You can sit back and smile and give thanks.
Give thanks. Yes. Give thanks. God be all the glory.
I love it, and you know, especially in this season, Ellis family, where we're talking so much about race, and we're talking about skin color, and we're talking about colorism in Jamaica and classism, right? It's even doubly important to teach our girls who are Black women, right? About the fact that they're beautiful and the fact that they are worthy and so forth. Is that a part of what you have found to be necessary to put in that piece too, not only about them intrinsically as human beings and as your daughters, but because they're also Black women? Have you found that to be an important piece of the conversation too?
Definitely, most definitely. And I think on that note, there's an experience or a state of mind or an introspection that Najali experienced when she was growing up that speaks clearly to that question.
Yes.
But it was important for me because in my Black skin, you know, growing these daughters, you know, I have to travel the world and experience different cultures and different places, you know. It was important for me to remind them that, especially now, knowing that they want to travel the world, both want to travel the world. I'm sure that one over there in Assassin, there's going to be some Spanish-speaking country because, you know, hasta la vista. You know, so that was very important.
I was instilling them from a younger
age.
And I think Najali has a story.
Yes. Okay, so when I was growing up, I wasn't very proud of my dark skin. I always felt like I'm the darkest in my class. I feel just Black. So I remember being in second form and we were learning in art class. I think we started learning how to draw portraits. And they told us, go home, draw a portrait, and then come back the next day for it to be marked. I went home, I was Googling faces. I typed in a beautiful woman in Google, bare white man. I can recall trying to draw a Disney star at the time. I think, yes, I found the right face to draw. I showed it to Daddy, he was like, she, Google Lauryn Hill, Gabrielle Union. I was like, Daddy, calm down. First of all, killer enough, okay, killer enough. He was just like, draw a Black woman, a Nubian princess. And at the time at 13, I didn't think that Black was beautiful. I thought it was, I don't know, inferior. So it took me some time to grow into my Blackness, to appreciate it. And I did a good job in that he always told me that you're beautiful, you know, Black is beautiful, whatever. So I think I can honestly finally appreciate it now and accept that I am beautiful and Black is beautiful.
Yeah.
You know,
You bring your paddles one more time for that point, I see.
You see, if we also when I said pull up, hardcore.
That's nice.
I don't know if they remember this, but I bought $2 for them in both uniforms of the school that they were in.
Yes.
And they were not Hillary Duff's kind of dollars, you know? Because I think it was important for them to be playing with dolls that look like them, you know? So it was, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
You know? Just to add to what Najali was saying, you know?
He always embraced natural hair. Your hair is beautiful because I think I saw my hair as, not something to wear out. You know, most times I had it twisted, but I think I actually had it out finally. I think in 6th form and was actually confident in my Blackness. So that was important too.
Excellent. So you see, for all the parents who are watching, you know, what I'm taking away from this particular piece of the conversation is, again, being deliberate. It's not magic. You can't just wish it into being and wish good children into being. You have to take literal steps. And another thing that I love in terms of Ity and Karen's message to the daughters is the piece about representation. It is important for them to see that there are people who look like you, people who look like us, who are doing great things and who are celebrated and who can be, you know, held up as a standard. So that's also important.
Yes.
Ity and Karen, sometimes when children have one parent or parents or both parents who are in the public spotlight, to some extent, it can put some pressure on them. Because, you know, people hold people up sometimes to unrealistic expectations. You see, she Ity daughter, you know, you see she go on the bus, you see she be here. So I want to hear from Najali and Nastasia. Was that ever a piece of your experience? And what was it like?
Honestly, sometimes it's annoying because, like, I would follow him to shows a lot. And I'm somebody who, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm kind of a complex person because, like, I want to go in the media, but at the same time, I'm somebody who I can be reserved when I want to be, and I don't like attention. So like I used to follow him to shows a lot, and would always leave late because everybody wants to take a picture. I'm just like, can we leave, please? Like everybody. So I really had to like adjust, and then I had friends at school who, I wouldn't go up and be like, oh, I'm Ity's daughter, but for some reason they always find out, and they'd make like a big deal out of it, and I'm just like, it's not that big deal. And then they always say, oh, so you get bear joke at home, and I'm just like, do they think? I'm just like, and as he said rightfully earlier, that it's not a show. Like he's still a regular person. He's just a performer. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So definitely, I wouldn't say that I felt pressured though to live up to, like standards that I feel like I couldn't meet.
I felt pressured.
You felt pressured?
Yeah. I think for me, going to my high school, right, in drama class especially, I think because I'm his daughter, they thought that I was going to be naturally funny or a good actress or whatever. And I can recall, for the most part, just not telling persons who I was, because I found that if I did, that could attract the wrong attention. Yeah. And I think I just really and truly just didn't like attention. I didn't want like any fake friends who thought, oh, because I'm somebody's daughter, I'm going to be rich or whatever. And I just, for the most part, was very reserved about it. I didn't tell people, which I think offended Daddy at one point.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, really and truly, I think it made me paranoid, thinking that I'm going to attract the wrong friend, the wrong crowd, or persons who just want to be friends with you just because. And
I have experience with that particularly, because I remember one year I went to a summer school program at Edna Manley, and I was, I met new friends, and I found out close to when I was almost done with the program, I found out that one of the persons that I was friends with was only friends with me because of my father, and that really hurt me. So I definitely think that that's probably one of the reasons why I don't like to keep it hidden. I like to keep it hidden, and even as Jolly was saying, like sometimes I would prefer for my mom to come to my school instead of him, because I don't want the attention. So like if it was parent-teacher conference, I would always want mommy to come, not him, because I don't want attention. Exactly. So it's definitely something.
You know what's funny, when I meet a new friend and they ask me, like probably a week as being friends, they ask what your parents did. I'd always say, oh, he's a businessman, which isn't a lie. He's a businessman. But it's not the whole truth. So I find that I would always try to curtail the truth and not be like, oh, he's IT, oh, he's a businessman, or he manages IT and finance again, which was true. Mm-hmm. But I found that it really affected my confidence, because I found that I was pretty much just trying to be hidden my whole life. Mm-hmm. So being 23 now and seeing how that affected me, it wasn't good. So now I can actually admit that at the time I pretty much used to hide, literally.
That's such a powerful revelation that, for other parents who may be in the spotlight in one way, shape, or form. I've heard the children of bishops in churches, so even in the church segment, even in the corporate world, and especially for those who are on television and the media a lot, it can really be sometimes an unfair burden that comes not because you will it to be so, Ity and Karen, but just by virtue of how people can be. So creating space too for them to be able to share, that, I don't really love this piece of it, Daddy or Mommy, can we do it this way? Is an important piece to be listening to their needs as well. So I just love the conversation so far, and the audience members are loving it too. Jen Sterling says, wow, rounded session, a little bit of everything. I love it, love it, love it. And Janet, thank you for that affirmation. She says, excellent moderation too. Thank you for that. Now, Ity and Karen, Najali, and Nastasia, we are coming to the end of not just the 7th class, but the end of the series. What I want to just welcome back on stage Marlon and Georgia, and allow an attendee or two, if you can be quick, to just ask any questions of the excellent panel, so that you can drop some more knowledge, and inspire some more parents and the children on their journey. All right, everybody good with that?
Okay, sure.
All right, excellent. So I'm going to ask the attendees to just raise your hand if you have a burning question to ask any one of our panelists, okay? And we will bring one micro really quickly. You have to make it tight so that you can ask question and be supported in that. All right, Jen Sterling says, encore, Jay, and we want more. So you guys work that out amongst yourselves. All right, so I'm seeing 2 hands raised. I'm seeing Patricia. Patricia, welcome to the live class. Welcome on stage. Are you able to unmute and speak and ask your question? Patricia, calling once, calling twice. All right, we're going to have to jump over to Kimon Nesbitt, who I see has also raised her hand. Kimon, do you have a question? Kimon, just click the, if you're hearing us, please click the unmute button so that we can hear you clearly. All right, so Kimon is not ready for us either. Is there any other panelists who has a question? If not, we're going to jump into Patricia. Are you ready now? I see your hand raised again. Patricia, can you unmute? This new normal is very serious. Patricia? All right, still not ready. So we're going to jump over to a question that was posed in the chat by Shanique Brown. Shanique says, my partner and I have conflicting parenting styles. While I encourage my 2-year-old son to cry and express his anguish, he encourages him to toughen up. I sometimes have a problem with it because I encourage emotional expression, but I grow fatherless. So I'm not sure if it's something good or bad growing a little boy. What should I do? Let me jump over to a father. Let me jump over to Marlon. Right, Marlon, how would you guide this one of our classmates in managing this situation?
I mean, the thing I would do here is first of all, not get into the label of describing their styles as conflicting. Mother and father have different roles. A mother is naturally the nurturer in the family, and she is going to be doing that. Not that men don't nurture either, but that's naturally what happens. And then the man is also working on the stage where he's trying to get the child to become independent and to start being their own selves. So I don't think of it as a conflict. I think that she can continue to nurture him. And I think that he can continue to encourage the child to be independent. And I think that what they can also both try on is try on each other's roles, even just for fun. And he can try on just giving some nurture and affirmation when the child wants to express their emotion, and she can try on encouraging the child to, you know, get up, brush yourself off, you know, come here, I love you still, but not necessarily having to, you know, the stereotypical thing that you see is that the child falls and you run to them and pick them up. No, you can stand up on your own, brush yourself off, come here, you're okay. So
for balance.
Yeah, for balance. But I think it's important that you move away from the labels.
Okay.
And just understand that you have different roles and encourage each other to play their roles and have fun. You're parenting. It's not, guys, it's not that serious. It's not heart surgery, right? You're parenting. Try things on. Have fun with it.
Thank you for that, Marlon. I'm going to jump over to Mr. Ity. What are your thoughts on that scenario? Then I'm going to ask Roddy to give us the final word on it.
You know, when I heard the scenario, I was saying, the child is 2. Come on. That's a big.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. No, come on. That's a big. Why wouldn't you be? No, come on. You know, and parenting is partnership. That's the most important thing. And my brother said it. I mean, it's roles, different roles. So you know, you're not going to compromise core values, but there's a compromise in recognizing that there are different roles, and therefore, you know, both of you mean the child well. That is obvious, you know. But the child is 2. Come on, that's a baby, you know, and enjoy.
I'm going to withhold my comment because we have to go soon. So Georgia, please give us your thoughts on this scenario.
I don't necessarily think that the moment watching the child is not allowing the child to toughen up. And I don't think that asking the child to toughen up means that he's not acknowledging his emotions. So I really think they need to have a conversation about, you know, where's each parent coming from? Because if it falls down and you say, jump up, doesn't mean that you don't care and doesn't mean that they can't cry. And you're allowing your child to cry doesn't mean that you're also not instilling those, you know, solidness. So sometimes it's a lack of appreciation of where the other person is coming from. So you should be able to sit and talk about it, especially if you find that it is something that's weighing on you. Yeah.
Excellently put. I see one of the panelists, Ity and Karen, Nastasia and Najali saying, it seems so easy to raise the children, Ity and Karen, but it is hard. How do you guys make it look so easy?
Go again. What's the question?
It seems so easy to raise the children for Ity and Karen, but it is hard. How do you guys make it look so easy is the question.
I'll tell you, if this interview was recorded about
yes, for sure.
10, 15 years ago, it probably would have been a different interview. But the truth is, and I said it earlier, now I realize
maturity
is a everyday. I say the quote made life is experiential. So therefore, you learn what works, you learn what don't work, and then you adjust accordingly, constantly going through, okay, that never worked. So after, there's two children, two different personalities, they both outspoken, but two different personalities. That's what explains she has a complex. So my parenting style for Najali don't work for Nastasia. I have to adjust between both of them.
And I see Georgia raising her paddle IT to that point. So you get a point there for sure.
yes. You know, you really, so that's a part of it. And remember, there are several novels, books about parenting, but usually they take a scientific slant and thing. But then when you're in the experience, it's there. I dare to say there's no true handbook that you can read and get it all right. No, there's no handbook that you can read to get it all right. Not like a textbook in school where you study properly and you're comfortable with the material and you can go and ace an exam. Not parenting. So prepare to fail and prepare to learn from those failures, because it's those mistakes that you can correct along the way. So it's not easy. What we are experiencing now, we're experiencing at the same time. What we are hearing them express and the way they express it, we are learning that too. We wouldn't have known that we had the impact that we have had on them outside this environment, you know? Yeah. So I'm happy, I'm pleased to hear, you know, so it's an everyday learning experience, you know? So it might look easy, but it's not.
I love that. Love that. We are in giveaway mode now to close out the session. So I'm going to give somebody who has a digital device the opportunity to get something additional from JN, hashtag JN Cares. And I'm going to read the voucher numbers for the Digicel, $1,000 call credit from Digicel. Are you ready? It is 39889-1970-7189. Is that too fast? Is that good enough? If you get it, just send me. And we also have a giveaway from my company, White Lotus Blooms Wellness Services. It is a wellness box with some beautiful items to help you on your self-care and wellness journey, especially during this pandemic. And I'm going to give you the chance to win the box. And here is what you have to do to win it. You will have to drop one gem, one takeaway gem, right, from tonight's class. What will you walk away from this space with as it relates to positive parenting? Just one. And I'm going to ask Georgia to be the judge to pick quickly that one winner of that wellness box, okay? So what one takeaway are you hugging up tonight from the fabulous and real powerful conversation from the Ellis family, from Georgia's very insightful and professional sharing, and from Marlon Cooper's coaching nuggets and gems from tonight's convo? So go ahead and put that in the chat, and we will, they're coming in, Georgia, they're coming in. And while we're doing that, I'm checking to see if we have ascertained the winner of the of the Amazon gift card for the person who has invited the most persons. And I see a query about the voucher. Let me read it again. The numbers are 39889-1970-7189. And Chavaret Notice has won the credit. Congratulations, Chavaret. That's a keepsake from the excellent JN Group family for this evening. And Georgia, have you seen a winner for the Wellness Box giveaway? I see communication is vital. I see, and Olivine says the Wellness Box is absolutely great. I will not lose my makeup bag. Awesome. Thanks for the shout out, Olivine, a previous winner.
I put the person in. I don't know if you can see. Marsha Denny.
Marsha Denny, thank you. Marsha Denny, what a very, what should I say, a very lucky. She's been on here several times, so you deserve it, Marshall. Thank you for coming to class and congratulations on winning yourself a wellness box. Thank you, Georgia, for playing judge at short notice as well. The winner now of the Amazon gift card, because JN full of gifts, you know, it's a space that keeps giving, right? The winner of the Amazon gift card is none other than Raquel Fagan. She has invited the most, all right, attendees to live class. Big up yourself, Raquel. And we thank you for partnering with JN to bring some people to fill the seats. And she said, bop, 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 to fill the seats in live class. So Raquel, we thank you. And we are so proud and grateful to you also. Karen, any final words for the parents and prospective parents of the live class?
Just continue to love your children. I guess we don't know it all, but you know, whatever it is, we can work it out together. So, you know, just love. Find the love in everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Love is a powerful thing. Ity.
Love in everything. Yes.
I want to say as a final word, something that I learned and it was reinforced today.
Yes.
Are you listening?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Right. I was saying, I learned along the way that resist the temptation as parents to try and enforce or coerce the children into being what you are, you know, into a particular profession, into a particular path. And let me explain. You have to discover whatever path that they are made for. Remember, even though they belong to us, we don't own them. They are their own independent being. They are owned by God, you know. And our role, I tell you something, I heard it today in a discussion and I connected with me. Our role, we are like gardeners, right? And our role is just to nurture. So God created the seed, and that seed, when it's planted, it will become what it is intended to be by God. Our job is to nurture the seed, support the seed, and allow the seed to become what it is. If the seed is callaloo, we can't try to bring Aki out of it. It is callaloo. And sometimes I think that's the mistake. I learned that very early because I'm in show business. I wanted to be in show business. I put the microphone at Natalie's mouth when she was about 4 at a function. And she come and she froze. And she did the same thing. I realized, whoa, what am I doing? She was not that kind of child. So I had to learn that really quickly. That's not the kind of child I did before. So after us, watch what their interests are and support those interests. So my final word, resist the temptation to try and enforce or coerce them into a particular path that's not their path. Find out what their interests are and support them. And support them on their journey.
Yeah.
I love that point. I must raise my paddle in support of that. And they are pretty much on loan to you. They don't own you. I love that point, especially to IT. So I love that. Thank you so much, Ellis family. You brought so much light and beauty to this space tonight. Trust me, you did God's work in this space. So thank you for being one of our final panelists for this series. And we really appreciate how you show up and show out in excellence and beauty tonight. Georgia Rose, one final word from you, please, ma'am.
Never give up. It's not an easy process, no matter how hard it is. Never give up. Keep, pushing through your children, even when they're at their lowest points and you're at your lowest point. Speak positive words over your children.
Yes.
Positive words over your children. I didn't say that one. I think that's the biggest lesson my mother. Never speak negativity or destruction or defeat over your children. Speak life into them. So even when they're not doing what we know they should do, just infuse them with that energy and tell yourself it's a war and you're going to win. So never give up.
Love it, love it, love it. And to Marlon, sir, final words for our parents and prospective parents.
One of the things that I share with persons is that if I knew that telling my child something, to get something to stick in their head, I had to tell it to them 30 times. I wouldn't get upset when I reach number 15. Because I know that I only have 15 more to go. So it's very, very important that we just take charge of ourselves. And for me, that means creating a space of non-judgment and unconditional love. And once you do that, it challenges you to show up a particular way. And once you start show up in a consistent way and the child sees that, they can learn to relax and be themselves because they know that there is space available for them. And that to me has become very, very important. So just show up and be consistent and be well-intentioned for your child. And what Georgia says, speak positive words, affirm them, make them know.
Yes.
Nobody else ever tell them. You tell them first.
Yes. And tell them often.
And tell them often.
And as the scripture says, if you believe in scripture, the scripture says life and death.
And
absolutely. I'm going to launch the results of a poll just to get a sense of how we're doing in closing out. My mood has improved. 93% of you said yes since the class has begun. That means we do our work, panelists. I feel good about my future. 91% of you said yes. From this class, 89% of you said yes. I recognize the way I have been parented may have caused trauma. 36% of you say sort of. 35% of you say yes. So we're encouraging you to tap into some resources to get some help to manage the trauma, especially on your journey as parents as well. Number 6, I am armed now with information which can help me navigate this pandemic as a parent. And 60% of you say yes, 4% of you say sort of. So I feel as though panelists, Ity, Karen, Najali, Nastasia, Georgia, and Marlon, we do our work tonight. Congratulations. And thank you so much for being a part of this series. It has been my absolute pleasure serving in the capacity as moderator. I had a blast. And I see people in the comments saying, JN, wagwan after this because my nights are going to be dull and boring on a Wednesday evening. So we will leave JN to decide amongst themselves what will happen hereafter. But I'm sure Ity and Karen will probably give a secondment to the fact that the conversation is needed and that people need these resources. So I'm really, really, really grateful. I feel full, I feel happy. And I'm thankful to the JN group for creating this series. Until next time, until JN tell us what is what and when is when, I will see all of you at a soon time. Feel free to follow me on social media at White Lotus Blooms, and you can connect with the other panelists in different fora as well. Thank you for taking the time to join us, especially for those of you who have been repeat attendees. You have made it so amazing and so worthwhile. Thank you, JN. Thank you, Ellis family. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Marlon. And thank you, Life Class family members. Much love. Until next time, have a great rest of the week and enjoy the rest of July. Take care.
Hey. Blessings and honor.
Yes, you.